My name is Das Senor. I run excavation rigs for a living, the kind of work nobody puts in a recruitment poster. 40 years old, third tour out past the Hollow Belt, and I was on the Korath Wastes the day they buried Imre Solt. She wasn't a soldier. She was a contracted soil surveyor, here under the Korath Compact's Labor Exchange Treaty, one of 200 humans on that dune world, mapping aquifer veins so the Compact could sell the water rights back to us at triple markup. Nobody's idea of a hero. She filed her reports on time. She kept a photo of her sister's kids taped inside her helmet visor. 3 weeks ago, she found something she wasn't supposed to find, an old compact aquifer survey, 40 years buried, showing the dry sector they'd contracted us to drill was never dry at all. They'd known. They sold us salt and called it water rights, and pocketed the difference for 4 decades. She reported it. Through proper channels. Filed exactly the way the treaty said to file it. The Compact's regional magistrate didn't open an inquiry. He had her dragged out to the open dunes, in front of the work crew, and had her buried up to the neck in sand under the binary suns, no trial, no charge read aloud, nothing but a camera crew and a magistrate reading a single line into the feed for every contracted world to hear. She is 1 grain of sand. The desert does not miss 1 grain. She lasted 6 hours before the heat took her. I was 40 meters away, behind a containment line, and there was nothing any of us could do. The Compact's enforcers had us at gunpoint the whole time. They wanted us watching. That was the point. We sent the feed home anyway. Smuggled it out on an old supply hauler before they could scrub it. Took 11 days to reach Earth. I didn't know what would happen next. None of us did. Out on the wastes, you don't get briefed on fleet movements. You get briefed on quotas. What happened next was this. 41 hours after that feed reached Earth Defense Command, every long-range relay the Compact owned across 6 systems went dark at the same instant. Not damaged, silenced, surgically, like someone had reached in and switched off 4 decades of infrastructure in a single coordinated breath. We found out later Earth had been quietly mapping the Compact's communications architecture for over a year, ever since the first whispers of the salted water fraud reached a human trade attaché. They'd been waiting for proof they could act on. Imre's report, and her death, was the proof. Then the ships came. Not a token force. Not a punitive strike. Earth's Tideline fleet, 18,000 hulls, the largest mobilization in the history of the colonial treaties, crossed compact space in a single staggered surge, planet to planet, like water finding every crack in a wall at once. No ultimatum was broadcast. No demand was issued. There was nothing to negotiate, because the Compact had already told the galaxy exactly what it thought a human life was worth, on camera, in their own words. The magistrate's homeworld received the Tideline fleet's vanguard 9 hours after the relays went dark. I watched the recording later, back on Earth, hands shaking around a coffee I never drank. No bombardment. No glassing. The fleet didn't burn the planet, it surrounded it, methodically, ship after ship sliding into orbit until the sky itself was no longer visible from the magistrate's palace windows. Every defense platform, every orbital yard, every relay tower the Compact owned on that world was disabled in under 2 hours, without a single civilian casualty. Then Admiral Renata Cho, Tideline Fleet, flagship Coast Guard, opened a channel to the magistrate directly, and read his own words back to him on a feed broadcast to every Compact world simultaneously. You said she was 1 grain of sand. The desert does not miss 1 grain. A pause. Long enough that I've heard people argue about how long it actually was. 8 seconds, 11, nobody agrees. Then. You built your fortune on sand. We have 18,000 ships of it. You will not miss 6 of your shipyards. You will not miss 4 of your fabrication moons. You will not miss the magistrate's office, effective immediately. You will, However, miss every drop of water rights revenue this office has stolen from 60 contracted worlds for 40 years, because every contract is being reopened, audited, and repaid, starting with the people who buried a woman alive for telling the truth about a well. No massacre followed. That's the part people get wrong when they retell it. They expect fire, and there wasn't any. The Tideline fleet didn't kill the people of that world. It didn't have to. It dismantled the machine that let one magistrate decide a human surveyor was disposable, piece by piece, in full view of every compact citizen who'd been told for decades that humans were grain in a much larger desert. By the time the fleet withdrew, 11 days later, the compact's regional government no longer existed in any form capable of issuing an order like that again. The magistrate himself was extradited under the very labor exchange treaty he'd violated, to face trial on a human colony world, the cameras running the whole time. No gloating. No spectacle beyond the truth, finally read aloud where it could not be buried again. I went back to the Korath Wastes 8 months later, on a reclamation crew. We weren't drilling for water rights anymore. The new Joint Commission had that handled, properly, this time, with humans at the table instead of underneath it. I walked out to the spot where Imra died. Someone had already been there before me, a small marker driven into the sand, no compact symbol on it, just her name and 2 words underneath, not buried. I stood there a long time. Out past the dune line, you could still see hull light reflecting off the high orbital platforms the Tideline fleet left behind to watch the handover, not a threat anymore, just a presence. The way a Tideline marks how far the water reached and isn't going anywhere soon. I don't think the magistrate ever understood what he actually said that day. He thought he was telling the desert it could swallow 1 grain and nothing would change. He never once stopped to think about what happens when the tide decides to come in. End of narration. Runtime approximate 10 minutes at standard VO pace.